Welcome everyone to Life Lessons from Movies, presented by my organization, the Zen of Hollywood, and me, your host, David MacKay. In this segment, we extract life lessons from movies and then use simple and practical tips to help us improve our lives and become happier, which I believe we all desire. Okay, today's theme is from self-hate to self-love. And we'll examine this all-important theme through the excellent film, The Edge of 17, starring Haley Steinfeld, Blake Jenner, and Kara Sedgwick. Please know there are spoilers ahead. Okay, this film focuses on this dysfunctional family like just about every other family out there is. A family of three members, Mona, Darian, and Nadine. Now, Mona is the mother, Darian is the 18-year-old high school student, and his younger sister, who is 17, that's Nadine. Now in the film, this dysfunctional family dynamic starts with Mona, the mother, and Mona is this very insecure person. She doesn't really like herself. She doesn't think she's good enough, beautiful enough, and we saw that in a couple of scenes in the film. So we can see that Mona has shame about herself, not being beautiful enough, and we can understand that she probably projected that onto Nadine while she was growing up, when she was a child, favoring Darian, Nadine's older brother, over her. And this is exactly what Nadine says. Darian was the better looking, the child that could do no wrong. He always did everything right, or so it seemed. So again, we can imagine that Nadine took the shame from her mother, internalized that, and then, of course, because she has that shame and she always wants to win the approval of her mother, her parents, which is what all children want to do, they end up suppressing that part of themselves that was rejected, and then eventually they even start hating that part of themselves. Now, in the film, when Nadine gets older, she turns 17, we see very clearly that she has this self-hatred. Remember that one scene when she's at that party, she's all alone in the bathroom, looking at herself in the mirror. She looks at herself and tells herself, just relax, stop being so weird, stop being so awkward. And here we have Nadine really criticizing herself, directing hatred towards herself, her image in the mirror. Now, the most important scene, the most beautiful, poignant scene, in my opinion, comes when Nadine speaks directly to Darian and confesses her self-hatred, right? She comes out and says that ever since she was a child, she really hated herself for the things that she did, who she was. She's really in tears. And what happens? Her brother comes to her and just hugs her, right? Really just hugs her, accepting her for who she is. And this is exactly what we need to bring, of course, to our self-hatred. We need to bring acceptance. We need to bring love. But it goes in steps. So let's talk about how to do this. How to go from self-hate to self-love. Now, a lot of you might be saying, hey, I don't have any self-hatred. I actually like myself. But if we really look deep inside, we can find some things that we don't like about ourselves. That's never good. Of course, we need to rectify that. We need to resolve that issue. Why? Because whatever we dislike about ourselves, we will project that onto others, as we have seen in this film. So we need to start there. Whenever we hate something or really dislike something intensely, we need to ask ourselves, what is it about myself that I dislike? What's the connection here? In Nadine's case, she could have taken a close look at the hatred that she has for her brother and asked herself, what is it that she dislikes about him? Well, that he looks good and he seems to do everything right, at least in the eyes of some people. And then ask herself, what is it about herself? What's the connection there to herself? And she would have found that, of course, that she doesn't like her physical appearance, and that she can't seem to do things as well, at least in the eyes of some people, as her brother. Remember what I said earlier about hatred, is that really there's a fear underneath, right? We hate something because we fear that we fear them as a threat, that they're going to take something away from us. So Nadine could have asked herself, what is it about Darian, for example, that I fear? What is the threat here? What do I think he will take away from me? Now, when Nadine's friend was going out with her brother, of course, the answer to that question would have been, well, I fear that he's going to take away my best friend. Do I really know it's true, first of all? No, I don't. Right? I can't say that I absolutely know this is true. But if it were true, what do I fear? What could come from that? She could keep asking this question Well, she could have said, well, if I lose my friend, well, that means that I won't have any friends. And if that were true, what would that mean about me? Continuing to ask the question, and she could have got to the answer, for example, that, well, that would mean that I'm not worthy of friends. One way or the other, when we keep asking this question, what is it that I fear and what does this mean about me, we get down to these bottom line results, reflections about our self-worth and self-esteem, that we're not good enough in some way, that we're not lovable, that we don't matter, that we can't do anything right. These are what's called negative core beliefs. And by asking this question, we can get down to the negative core belief and the shame surrounding that negative core belief. Once I know what I fear and what I feel is shameful about me, then I can ask my question, is there something about me that I dislike or even hate? Right? And it's not hard to go from that place, finding that fear, right, that shame, and then finding this self-hatred. We can then ask ourselves, all right, so when did this first start? When did this fear or shame or self-hatred, whatever we have identified, when did this first start? And let the answers come to us without forcing them. In Nadine's case, she identified when she was 7 years old. So let's imagine that we're Nadine in this case. We can go back in time in our minds to the time we were 7 years old and remember that event, right? We can be with the negative emotions that we felt, this anger, this shame, this fear, this hurt. Just listening to our inner child, validating his or her emotions. And this is how we release those emotions. Then what we would do is to tell ourselves the truth, the message we didn't hear from our mother at that time. And if we were Nadine, then we would have said, hey, this has nothing to do with us, that we are just as good as anybody else, and we deserve love just as much as Darian or anybody else. This is the message that Nadine didn't receive, the positive message of love, approval, right, self-worth that she didn't receive at that time. Once we heal that moment in time, that particular issue, then the self-hatred goes away. It begins to dissipate. Then we begin to find true acceptance for ourselves. And after acceptance, eventually comes self-love. This is how we go from self-hate to self-love. Okay, what did you see as a major life lesson from this film? I would love to hear from you in comments below. And for more movies, tips, and life lessons, please go to my website, thezenofhollywood.com. That's thezenofhollywood.com. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.